Welcome back to Shadow Whispers, where we explore the darkest corners of the world's most chilling mysteries. In today's video, we're diving into a spine-tingling topic that's bound to make you look over your shoulder the next time you board a bus. From ghostly encounters to eerie disappearances, these haunted buses have been the subject of urban legends, terrifying sightings, and unexplained phenomena around the globe. Join us as we uncover the stories of the most notorious haunted buses, from the ghostly number 19 in Vancouver to the mysterious Phantom Bus of Ladakh, and many more. If you're a fan of chilling tales and unsettling encounters, make sure to hit that subscribe button, because this ride is about to get very eerie. Now, let's begin the journey of the haunted buses. 10. Vancouver's Phantom Bus, Canada. In the vibrant city of Vancouver, Canada, a tale has persisted for decades that sends a chill down the spine of anyone who hears it. It involves a ghostly bus, known as Vancouver's Phantom Bus, which has been the subject of numerous sightings and eerie encounters. This story blends the realm of urban legend with a chilling reality, where supernatural events unfold in the heart of a bustling metropolis. This is the haunting of Vancouver's Phantom Bus. Before becoming a subject of ghostly tales, Vancouver was home to a robust and growing transit system, which has been serving its residents since the early 1900s. The public bus system, which included various routes winding through neighborhoods and along dark stretches of the city, became the most common way for locals to travel. One of the more infamous bus routes was the number 19, which ran from the east to the west end of the city, cutting through some of Vancouver's quieter, older neighborhoods. Historically, Vancouver's streets and its surrounding areas are known for their early connections to native land and settlements, which some believe may explain the paranormal activity. The city's colonial roots, with its many battles, settlements, and sometimes tragic incidents, have also contributed to the foundation of local legends. The haunting of Vancouver's Phantom Bus began in the 1950s, when the first reports of strange happenings began to circulate among the city's public transportation riders. Passengers on the number 19 bus route began to notice that, on some late-night journeys, they would encounter a bus that seemed to appear out of nowhere. The bus was described as being older, with an eerie and unsettling atmosphere. In some accounts, passengers claimed that the bus appeared at stops where no other vehicles should have been. It would often be completely empty, except for one or two passengers who would appear unusually still or distant. These mysterious passengers would never speak, and they would exit the bus at odd points along the route, only to disappear into the night. Notable incidents. 1. The vanishing bus. One of the most well-known incidents occurred on a foggy evening in the late 1950s. A local woman was waiting at a bus stop on the number 19 route. She noticed an old bus approaching, which was out of place because it didn't look like any bus she had seen before. The bus stopped, and she climbed aboard. The driver was silent and unremarkable, but when she looked around, she realized she was the only passenger on board. As the bus continued down the road, it seemed to become more and more detached from reality. The woman became disoriented and asked the driver to stop, but when she stepped off the bus, she found herself back at the same bus stop she had started from, with no sign of the mysterious bus. 2. The silent passenger. Another incident occurred in the 1970s when a commuter on the number 19 bus was seated near the back. He noticed a man sitting quietly across from him. The man was dressed in a 1950s-style suit, and his appearance seemed out of place for that time. After a few minutes, the commuter noticed that the man had not moved, and when he looked closer, he realized that the man wasn't even blinking. Terrified, the commuter quickly exited at the next stop, only to see the same man get off the bus at the same stop, and then vanish before his eyes. 3. The ghostly sounds. Over the years, many passengers reported hearing strange sounds while riding the number 19 bus at night. Some described hearing footsteps that seemed to echo through the empty bus even though no one else was around. Others reported hearing whispers or laughter, but when they turned to see who was there, no one was visible. 4. The disappearing driver. One of the most spine-chilling incidents involved a late-night ride on the number 19. A passenger reported that when they boarded the bus, the driver was present, but his face was hidden in the shadows. As the bus traveled down the route, the passenger became uneasy, noticing that the driver never spoke a word, nor did they make any attempts to interact. At the next stop, the passenger exited and turned to look at the bus. To their horror, the driver was now completely gone, yet the bus was still moving with no sign of anyone in control. As the years went on, the sightings and encounters involving the Phantom Bus grew in number. Many believed the hauntings were tied to a tragic incident involving the death of a bus driver or passenger, though no official records have confirmed such an event. The sightings persisted, with some commuters even claiming that the bus appeared to be stuck in time, as if it were transporting passengers from another era. Local residents, particularly those familiar with Vancouver's public transportation system, began to fear the number 19 bus route. The bus was often avoided after dark, especially by people who had heard the stories or had their own eerie experiences. Some bus drivers even claimed to have seen the bus, but they refused to speak about it, adding to the urban legend's air of mystery. One theory is that the ghostly bus is the result of a forgotten tragedy. Some believe that the driver or passengers may have met untimely deaths, and their spirits are now trapped in a loop, riding the bus for eternity. Another possible explanation is the idea of a time slip, where the bus could be traveling through different periods of time, picking up passengers from another era. Some believe the bus is a ghostly apparition that bridges the past and present, creating an eerie, supernatural experience for those who encounter it. Skeptics argue that the stories of the Phantom Bus are simply urban legends. With so many similar stories circulating, the phenomenon may be a case of collective imagination, fueled by the eerie nature of Vancouver's dark and foggy streets at night. 9. Manila's haunted jeepneys, Philippines. In the bustling streets of Manila, Philippines, where the air is filled with the sounds of honking horns and chatter, one of the most iconic and unusual forms of transportation is the jeepney. These colorful, often overcrowded vehicles are the lifeblood of the city's public transportation system. But hidden beneath their vibrant exteriors lies a chilling legend, the haunted jeepneys of Manila. Stories of ghostly encounters and inexplicable events have plagued the city for decades, with commuters and drivers alike claiming to have experienced terrifying, supernatural phenomena. Jeepneys have been a part of Filipino culture since the end of World War II. Originally made from surplus military jeeps, these vehicles were adapted to serve as public transportation for the Filipino people. Over time, jeepneys became a symbol of the country's creativity and resilience, each one uniquely decorated and painted with bright colors and intricate designs. While these vehicles have always been essential to the daily lives of Manila's citizens, they have also become part of a darker urban legend that locals whisper about. The hauntings began to surface around the late 1970s, with stories of unexplained events occurring during late-night rides. At first, these were just rumors, strange noises, fleeting glimpses of figures, and an eerie sense of being watched. But over time, more commuters and drivers started sharing their own unsettling experiences. The first widely known story about Manila's haunted jeepneys dates back to the early 1980s. A jeepney driver was reported to have picked up a group of passengers late at night. As the ride progressed, the driver began to notice something strange, a woman, dressed in white, sitting in the back seat, staring out the window. When the driver glanced at her through the rearview mirror, she was gone. Startled, he looked around but saw no trace of her. At the next stop, the driver picked up more passengers, but one of them claimed that the woman in white had just exited at the last stop. This eerie encounter set the stage for more reports of ghostly sightings and paranormal activity on Manila's jeepneys. Notable incidents. 1. The woman in white. One of the most common and unsettling sightings involves a woman dressed in a long white gown. She's often seen riding the jeepney late at night, with no one else in sight. When the passengers try to speak to her, she disappears without a trace. In some versions of the story, she is said to be a spirit of a woman who died in a tragic accident, eternally searching for a way back to her family. 2. The shadow passenger. Another story tells of a driver who noticed an unusual shadow sitting beside him in the driver's seat. The shadow would mimic his movements, but when he looked to his side, there was no one there. The driver, terrified, stopped the jeepney and looked around, only to find no one was in the vehicle except for him. 3. Disappearing passengers. Some accounts describe passengers who board the jeepney and, during the journey, are somehow forgotten by the driver. They are reported to have vanished by the time the jeepney reaches its destination. The other passengers might not even notice, but the driver is left bewildered, unsure if it was an illusion or something more sinister. 4. The haunted night ride. A well-known incident involved a group of students who decided to take a late-night jeepney ride. During the journey, they noticed that the vehicle was empty except for themselves, yet they could hear a child crying in the back. When they looked to see where the sound was coming from, the child's cry stopped abruptly, and the jeepney suddenly sped up as though it was out of control. Terrified, the passengers demanded to be let off, but the driver simply drove on, never acknowledging their concerns. The haunted jeepneys have since become a popular urban legend in Manila, with many locals avoiding these late-night rides, particularly those that pass through certain areas associated with past accidents or tragedies. Drivers have been known to share their own chilling tales, warning new drivers to avoid certain routes after dark. Despite the growing fear, some passengers continue to board the jeepneys, believing the stories to be nothing more than superstition. In an attempt to calm commuters, some jeepney operators have even gone as far as repainting their vehicles or changing their routes, hoping to dispel the ghostly presence. However, the hauntings persist, and sightings of spectral figures or strange noises continue to be reported. Many believe the haunted jeepneys are the product of vengeful spirits. Some think the souls of people who died in tragic accidents while riding these vehicles or in areas along the route have remained trapped, causing these unsettling manifestations. The presence of ghostly figures in public transportation may also be tied to Filipino folklore. Spirits in Filipino culture are often believed to haunt places of transition, such as vehicles, as they symbolize a passage between life and death. The jeepneys, constantly moving through the city, may act as a bridge for these spirits. Skeptics argue that the tales of haunted jeepneys may be a manifestation of collective fear and superstition. Given the chaotic nature of Manila's late-night traffic and the exhaustion that comes with it, some commuters may experience heightened states of anxiety or even hallucinations. 8. The night bus of Singapore. Singapore is known for its modern skyline, bustling streets, and multicultural heritage. But beneath its sleek exterior, there lies a chilling urban legend that has haunted the late-night commuters of the city for decades, the night bus of Singapore. This mysterious bus is said to appear only after midnight, transporting passengers on an eerie journey with unsettling encounters and ghostly occurrences. The story of the night bus dates back to the early 1980s, when Singapore's public transportation system expanded to serve its growing population. The buses were often seen as a lifeline for those working late or traveling across the island during the quiet hours of the night. Among these late-night buses was one particular route, often described as running between the outskirts of the city and some of the more remote districts. Locals say it was a regular route with a specific bus number, and its operation was unremarkable, until the fateful event that changed its reputation forever. The first whispers of supernatural happenings surrounding the night bus began after a tragic accident occurred on the route. In the early 1990s, a bus driver, who was said to be experienced and well-regarded, lost control of the vehicle during a heavy rainstorm. The bus skidded off the road, crashing into a roadside barrier. The driver and several passengers tragically lost their lives in the incident, but the bodies were found in a strange state. Some passengers were found seated as if nothing had happened, while others appeared to have been frozen in terror. After the crash, the bus route was resumed, but that's when the strange occurrences began. Passengers reported seeing the same bus, even though it was supposed to be decommissioned. The eerie part? The bus would be seen traveling late at night, running on the same route, but with an unsettling atmosphere. Notable incidents. 1. The silent ride. One of the first reported encounters was from a late-night passenger who boarded the bus around 1 a.m. He sat near the back and noticed the bus was unusually quiet, no sounds of chatter, no street noise from outside, just a strange, oppressive silence. The other passengers seemed to be in a trance, staring straight ahead. When the passenger attempted to speak to someone, they gave no response. Eventually, he disembarked at his stop, only to realize the bus had already disappeared into the night when he turned around. 2. The strange driver. Another story from a commuter involved a woman who took the bus after finishing her late shift. As she sat down, she noticed the driver was wearing an old, outdated uniform, nothing like the usual attire worn by the current bus operators. The driver never spoke, and his face was obscured by the dim light. At one point, the woman noticed that the other passengers, who were all sitting motionless, looked pale and unnaturally stiff, as though they were not alive at all. She quickly exited, but she could not shake the feeling that the bus was following her. 3. The disappearing passengers. Several commuters have shared similar stories of encountering the night bus on quiet streets, only for it to vanish as they got closer. They report seeing the bus appear at random stops, but when they attempt to board, it speeds off at an impossible rate of speed, disappearing down narrow alleyways or dark corners of the city. The legend of the night bus spread quickly among the locals. While some dismissed the sightings as nothing more than overactive imaginations or tired commuters, others firmly believe that the bus is the product of restless spirits, victims of the crash, trapped in a loop, forever riding the bus that claimed their lives. Over time, the sightings of the night bus became less frequent, but the stories never ceased. Some residents now avoid the late-night bus routes, particularly those that travel near the site of the crash. They believe that riding the bus after midnight invites the spirits aboard. Many locals believe that the bus is haunted by the souls of those who perished in the crash. The eerie silence and strange atmosphere are seen as signs that the passengers are trapped in limbo, unable to find peace. Others argue that the night bus is a product of collective imagination, a legend that grew over time as people sought an explanation for the unnerving late-night experiences on public transport. Some believe the haunting is connected to Singapore's rich folklore, where spirits are known to hitch rides on buses and trains. It could be an embodiment of these tales, woven into the fabric of the city's modern life. 7. The haunted bus of Bogota, Colombia. In the vibrant and historic city of Bogota, Colombia, where colonial architecture blends with modern life, one chilling urban legend refuses to fade. Known as the haunted bus of Bogota, this tale has gripped the imaginations of locals and visitors alike. It tells of a bus that roams the city at night, carrying passengers who are not what they seem. During the mid-20th century, Bogotá experienced significant urban growth. Public buses were a primary mode of transportation, connecting neighborhoods across the sprawling city. One such bus, a late-night service that traveled along a remote route, gained infamy after a horrifying incident. Legend has it that on a foggy night, a bus carrying a small group of passengers plunged off a steep road into a ravine. The accident killed everyone on board, and due to its remote location, the wreckage was not discovered for days. Many believe the tragedy resulted from the driver's exhaustion or poor visibility, while others whispered of more sinister forces. In the years following the accident, eerie stories began to emerge. People claimed to see an old, decrepit bus traveling along Bogotá's streets late at night. Witnesses described it as dimly lit, with shadowy figures visible through its windows. Strangely, the bus never stopped for passengers, disappearing into the darkness instead. Notable incidents. 1. The mysterious passenger. One account tells of a man who boarded the haunted bus late at night, noticing the unsettling silence and stillness of the other passengers. When he tried to strike up a conversation, no one responded. As the bus approached his stop, he noticed the passengers' faces were pale and lifeless. He leapt off in terror, only to see the bus vanish before his eyes. 2. Unexplainable encounters. A taxi driver following the bus late one night reported that it suddenly disappeared at an intersection, leaving behind only the faint smell of burning rubber. 3. The ghostly driver. Some claim that the driver of the haunted bus is a spectral figure, dressed in the old uniform of Bogotá's bus operators, staring blankly ahead as if unaware of the living world around him. The haunted bus of Bogota has become a symbol of urban legend in the city, sparking fear and curiosity. While some residents dismiss the stories as exaggerations, others avoid traveling late at night, especially on certain routes. The bus is said to appear only to those who are vulnerable, such as lonely travelers or those seeking a ride home during Bogotá's quiet hours. Believers argue that the bus is trapped in a spectral loop, reenacting its final, tragic journey. Skeptics suggest that these sightings are the product of Bogotá's foggy nights and tired imaginations. The eerie atmosphere of the city's older neighborhoods may contribute to the creation of ghost stories. Others see the story as a warning to avoid recklessness or traveling alone at night, reflecting Bogotá's broader cultural caution regarding safety. 6. The Desert Ghost Bus, Australia. Australia's vast deserts are known for their haunting beauty and isolation. Among the eerie tales that arise from this desolation is the story of the Desert Ghost Bus, a mysterious vehicle said to haunt the outback roads. Its legend combines the harsh realities of the desert with spine-chilling encounters that leave travelers questioning their senses. The origins of the Desert Ghost Bus date back to the mid-20th century, when long-distance bus services were vital for connecting remote towns in Australia's vast interior. One such bus was a robust vehicle known for its reliability, operating routes between mining towns and small desert settlements. However, tragedy struck one fateful night when the bus veered off a deserted road during a sandstorm. The driver and passengers perished in the accident, and the wreckage was never fully recovered due to the shifting sands of the outback. Years after the accident, stories began to emerge of a phantom bus appearing on lonely desert highways. Travelers reported seeing a battered, dust-covered bus with dim, flickering headlights moving eerily through the night. Witnesses often described feeling a sudden drop in temperature and hearing faint whispers or cries as the bus passed by. Notable incidents. 1. Mysterious ride. A truck driver claimed to have seen the Desert Ghost Bus in the early hours of the morning. He tried to overtake it but found himself driving in circles, always ending up behind the bus. The vehicle finally disappeared in a swirl of dust, leaving him shaken. 2. A haunting sight. A group of campers reported seeing the ghostly bus parked at a distance, its interior lights faintly glowing. As they approached, the bus vanished without a sound. 3. Passenger encounter. One chilling account involves a hitchhiker picked up by the phantom bus. He later claimed that the passengers were silent, staring straight ahead with vacant eyes. The hitchhiker jumped off in terror, only to see the bus fade into the desert horizon. The legend of the Desert Ghost Bus has become a part of outback folklore. Locals and seasoned travelers alike advise against driving alone on remote desert roads late at night. While some view it as a cautionary tale about the dangers of the outback, others believe the bus is a restless spirit, doomed to roam the sands forever. Many believe the bus and its passengers are trapped in a ghostly loop, unable to find peace due to the violent nature of their deaths. Skeptics argue that the vast emptiness of the desert, combined with exhaustion and mirages, could lead to hallucinations of a ghostly bus. Some view the tale as a metaphor for the harshness and unpredictability of the Australian outback, where survival is not guaranteed. 5. Bangkok's Bus 47, Thailand. Bangkok, Thailand, is a vibrant city filled with bustling streets and rich cultural traditions. Amid its chaotic charm, a chilling tale lingers, the legend of Bus 47, a ghostly vehicle that has become a subject of fear and fascination among locals. Known for its spectral passengers and mysterious appearances, Bus 47 has cemented its place in Bangkok's paranormal lore. Bus 47 was a routine public bus that operated along a popular route connecting several busy districts in Bangkok. Its journey passed through commercial hubs and older parts of the city. However, the story took a dark turn in the 1980s when a horrific accident occurred. One stormy night, the bus collided with a truck on a poorly lit road. The crash resulted in multiple fatalities, including passengers and the driver. It is said that many of the deceased were never properly identified or given traditional Buddhist rites, leaving their spirits restless. Not long after the accident, eerie reports began to emerge. Late-night travelers claimed to see an old, rickety bus bearing the number 47, often appearing during storms. The bus was described as dimly lit, with passengers who seemed unnaturally silent and pale. Some even reported that the driver would stare ahead without moving, ignoring attempts to ask for directions or stops. Notable incidents. 1. The ghostly ride. A young woman reportedly boarded bus 47 late at night, noticing the unusual quietness among the passengers. When she tried to talk to the person next to her, they didn't respond. A sudden chill overcame her, and she decided to get off at the next stop. As she turned back to look, the bus vanished into the darkness. 2. Chilling encounter. A man waiting at a bus stop during a heavy downpour saw bus 47 pull up. As he approached, he noticed the interior seemed shrouded in mist, and the passengers' faces appeared blurred. Panicked, he stepped back, and the bus sped away without a sound. 3. Vanishing act. Taxi drivers have also reported seeing bus 47 moving ahead of them late at night, only to disappear when they tried to follow it. The legend of bus 47 quickly spread, becoming a cautionary tale among Bangkok residents. Some believe the ghostly bus is a reminder of the tragic accident, with spirits reliving their final journey. Others see it as a warning against reckless driving or traveling late at night. Despite these stories, no physical evidence of the haunted bus has ever been found, adding to the mystery. Many locals attribute the hauntings to spirits of the accident victims who are trapped on the bus, unable to find peace. Skeptics suggest these sightings are products of fear, exhaustion, and the power of suggestion, especially during late hours. Some view the tale as an urban myth that grew over time, blending historical tragedy with Bangkok's rich tradition of ghost stories. 4. The haunted double-decker bus 7, London, UK. London, a city steeped in history and mystery, is no stranger to tales of the supernatural. Among its many legends is the story of Bus 7, a haunted double-decker that once roamed the streets of Ladakh Grove. This chilling tale combines tragedy, eerie encounters, and unanswered questions, making it one of London's most enduring urban legends. Bus 7 was a common sight on the streets of London, serving residents and tourists alike. The route passed through bustling areas during the day and quieter, dimly lit streets at night. It was a reliable means of transport until a tragic incident in the 1930s that would forever change its legacy. The legend of the haunted Bus 7 began with a fatal accident at the Ladakh Grove Junction. According to reports, a driver lost control of his vehicle after swerving to avoid the bus, crashing into a wall and dying on impact. Witnesses claimed the bus appeared out of nowhere, veering dangerously before disappearing into the night. Despite an investigation, no physical bus matching the description was found in the area. Notable incidents. Over the years, there have been multiple sightings of Bus 7. 1. Phantom sightings. Late-night travelers have reported seeing a double-decker bus with its lights blazing and engine roaring, speeding recklessly down Ladakh Grove. As they watch, the bus vanishes before their eyes. 2. Ghostly driver. Some witnesses claim to have seen a shadowy figure behind the wheel, motionless and emotionless, as the bus hurtles through intersections. 3. Unnerving encounter. A cyclist once reported narrowly avoiding the phantom bus, describing an overwhelming feeling of cold and dread as it passed through him, leaving no trace behind. The story of Bus 7 spread quickly, becoming a popular urban legend. Locals began avoiding Ladakh Grove at night, particularly the intersection where the accident occurred. Some believed the bus was cursed, doomed to relive the tragic accident, while others viewed it as a warning to reckless drivers. Despite the London Transport Authority dismissing the sightings as mere folklore, the legend persists. Many believe the ghostly bus is the spirit of the vehicle involved in the fatal accident, bound to haunt the streets as penance for the tragedy. Skeptics argue that foggy conditions, dim lighting, and fatigue might cause travelers to mistake ordinary buses for something supernatural. Others suggest that the legend thrives on London's rich tradition of ghost stories, blending history and imagination. 3. The Ghost Bus of Guatemala City, Guatemala. Guatemala City, a bustling urban center, has its share of dark urban legends. Among the most chilling is the tale of the ghost bus, a phantom vehicle that roams the city's streets late at night. This eerie story is tied to Guatemala's violent past, supernatural beliefs, and the unexplained mysteries that still haunt the city. In the 1990s, Guatemala City was plagued by crime and corruption. Public buses were common targets of violence, with gangs often extorting drivers or robbing passengers. One bus in particular met a tragic fate. According to local lore, a gang attacked this bus late at night, killing the driver and several passengers before setting it ablaze. The charred remains of the vehicle were left to decay, but many claim its spirit lives on. Not long after the attack, stories began circulating of a ghostly bus appearing on the same route where the tragedy occurred. Late-night travelers reported seeing an old, battered bus with dim, flickering lights and a driver who appeared skeletal or shadowy. Witnesses claimed the bus seemed to emerge out of nowhere, silently gliding along the streets before disappearing without a trace. Notable incident. One of the most famous encounters occurred in 2001. A taxi driver reported being flagged down by a frantic passenger who said he had just escaped from a ghostly bus. The man described stepping onto what he thought was a regular bus, only to realize that the other passengers were silent, their faces pale and lifeless. Terrified, he jumped off at the next stop, only to see the bus vanish into thin air. Over the years, there have been numerous reports of the ghost bus. Some claim to see it driving through deserted streets during the early hours of the morning, its windows glowing faintly. Others report hearing faint screams or cries as it passes by, believed to be echoes from the night of the massacre. A few brave souls who claim to have boarded the bus recount a chilling atmosphere, with an icy cold that numbs the senses and a driver who refuses to acknowledge questions. The ghost bus has become a symbol of Guatemala City's struggles with violence and loss. Many locals view it as a manifestation of unresolved spirits, tied to the tragic events that unfolded on that fateful night. Skeptics argue that the stories stem from collective trauma and a need to explain the violence that has scarred the city. The tale has also evolved into a cautionary story, warning against late-night travel on unsafe routes. 2. The Phantom Bus of Ladakh, India. Nestled in the rugged terrain of the Indian Himalayas, Ladakh is a land of breathtaking beauty and mystique. Among its many tales is the eerie legend of the Phantom Bus of Ladakh, a ghostly vehicle that has haunted travelers for decades. This story combines local folklore, chilling encounters, and the unforgiving landscape of one of the world's most remote regions. Ladakh's roads are notoriously dangerous, cutting through high-altitude passes and desolate stretches. The region's treacherous terrain has witnessed numerous accidents, with some vehicles plunging into deep gorges or being buried under landslides. One such incident, locals say, involved a passenger bus that disappeared during a snowstorm in the 1970s. Despite extensive searches, neither the bus nor its passengers were ever found. Years later, travelers started reporting strange sightings of a glowing bus traversing these isolated roads. Unlike ordinary vehicles, this bus emitted an eerie, bluish light and appeared to glide silently over the rugged paths. It was always seen late at night, often during inclement weather, adding to its ghostly aura. Notable incident. One chilling story involves a lone motorcyclist who, in 1995, encountered the Phantom Bus while stranded on the Manila highway. Desperate for help, he flagged it down. The bus stopped, and the driver, described as skeletal with hollow eyes, gestured for him to board. Overwhelmed by an unnatural chill, the motorcyclist hesitated. Before he could decide, the bus vanished into thin air, leaving him in stunned silence. He later claimed he felt lucky to have not stepped aboard. Many truckers and locals claim to have seen the bus over the years, often describing passengers as shadowy figures or seats eerily empty. Some travelers who accepted a ride reported waking up miles away, disoriented, with no memory of the journey. These accounts have spread widely among Ladakhi communities, cementing the Phantom Bus as part of local lore. Locals believe it to be the spirit of the lost bus, cursed to roam the mountains forever, searching for its passengers. Others suggest these sightings are hallucinations caused by high altitudes, thin air, and exhaustion. Some propose that weather conditions, such as snowstorms and dense fog, create optical illusions, tricking the human mind. 1. Beijing's Haunted Bus 375, China. On a cold night, November 14, 1995, Beijing's Bus 375, known as the Midnight Bus to Nowhere, departed from the Yuanminjiwan terminus for its final route to Xiangshan. This ordinary journey soon turned into China's most infamous urban legend. Bus 375 was a regular city bus route that connected residential areas with Beijing's tourist spots. Operating until midnight, it was used by late-night workers and travelers. However, the route passed through desolate areas near cemeteries and lonely roads, which locals often associated with eerie vibes and superstitions. That fateful night, the bus was sparsely occupied as it started its journey. At one stop, two men flagged it down. Dressed in ancient-style clothing, they appeared disoriented. Witnesses, including the driver and conductor, described them as pale and lifeless. One passenger, an elderly woman, reportedly grew uneasy but remained silent at first. As the journey continued, the elderly woman accused another passenger of stealing her wallet. The commotion forced the driver to stop. Once outside, she whispered to the accused passenger, "I lied to get you off. The two men behind us aren't human." Both stayed behind as the bus resumed its journey. The next morning, authorities found Bus 375 abandoned in a reservoir near Xiangshan. Inside were the charred remains of the driver and conductor, but no trace of the mysterious passengers. Disturbingly, it was reported that the fuel tank contained human blood instead of gasoline. The incident sparked widespread fear. People avoided traveling late at night, especially on Bus 375. Some claimed the two mysterious passengers were ghosts seeking to avenge their untimely deaths, while others speculated they were supernatural entities warning the living. Despite official denials and lack of concrete evidence, the story remains embedded in Beijing's urban folklore. In the years following the event, locals have reported seeing ghostly figures resembling the two men near the reservoir or along the bus route. Drivers occasionally claim to experience strange, unexplained malfunctions or cold drafts late at night. The legend has inspired movies, books, and debates. Was it a supernatural event, or just a chilling coincidence magnified by fear and imagination? Whatever the truth, Bus 375 continues to haunt Beijing's collective memory, a reminder of how the ordinary can become extraordinary in the blink of an eye.